Forgotten Women Who Changed History, uncovering the stories of overlooked influential women. History, as it has often been told, has a way of omitting the voices and achievements of women who made remarkable contributions to society, science, politics, and culture. Their stories were either marginalized or erased, overshadowed by their male counterparts. However, their impact remains undeniable, and by bringing their stories to light, we can correct the narrative that history is the product of male-only achievements. Here we delve into the lives of women who changed history, but were forgotten by mainstream narratives. First, Hypatia of Alexandria, circa 360 to 415 CE. Hypatia was a brilliant philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician in ancient Alexandria. She was renowned for her teaching and leadership in the Neoplatonic school of philosophy, guiding students in mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy. Hypatia is remembered for her work on geometry, algebra, and astronomy, including the development of early astronomical instruments. Unfortunately, her life was cut short during a time of religious and political turmoil. Hypatia was murdered by a mob of Christians who viewed her scientific knowledge as heretical. Her death symbolized the decline of classical knowledge in the ancient world, and despite her significant contributions, her story was largely erased from historical records until recent times. Second, Nzinga Mande, 1583-1663, Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba in modern-day Angola, was a powerful leader who fought against the Portuguese colonization of her kingdom. Nzinga is best known for her skillful diplomacy and military strategy. She formed alliances with other African kingdoms, and even with the Dutch, to combat Portuguese incursions into her territory. Nzinga became a symbol of resistance against European colonization in Africa. Though she held off the Portuguese for much of her reign, her legacy was often downplayed or erased by colonial historians. Nzinga's defiance and tactical brilliance, however, made her one of Africa's greatest rulers, a symbol of anti-colonial resistance and an inspiration for generations to come. 3. Sophia Kovalevskaya, 1850-1891. Sophia Kovalevskaya was a pioneering Russian mathematician and one of the first women to receive a doctorate in mathematics. Despite the barriers she faced due to her gender, Sophia made groundbreaking contributions to analysis, partial differential equations, and mechanics. Her work earned her a prestigious chair at Stockholm University, making her the first woman to hold a full professorship in Northern Europe. Yet her story is often omitted from narratives about the development of mathematics, and her struggles as a woman in a male-dominated field were rarely acknowledged until recently. Kovalevskaya's achievements set a precedent for women in science, even though her name did not remain prominent in the history of mathematics. 4. Ida B. Wells, 1862-1931. Ida B. Wells was an African-American journalist, suffragist, and civil rights activist who was pivotal in the early fight against lynching in the United States. Born into slavery, Wells used her journalism to expose the horrors of racial violence in the post-Civil War South. She co-founded the NAACP and advocated for both racial and gender equality. Despite her significant contributions to the civil rights movement, her work was often overshadowed by male leaders of the time. Wells' legacy of courage, advocacy, and resistance to injustice remains underappreciated, but is crucial to understanding the long and ongoing struggle for civil rights in America. 5th, Hatshepsut, circa 1507 to 1458 BCE. Hatshepsut was one of the most successful pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Ruling for over 2 decades during the 18th dynasty, she defied tradition by assuming the title of pharaoh and presenting herself as a male king. Under her reign, Egypt experienced great prosperity, peace, and a flourishing of arts and architecture. She oversaw massive construction projects, including her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahri. Despite her achievements, Hatshepsut's successors attempted to erase her from history by defacing her monuments and omitting her name from records. It was only through modern archaeology that her legacy was rediscovered, and her remarkable reign was restored to its rightful place in history. 6. Katherine Johnson, 1918-2020. Katherine Johnson was an African-American mathematician whose calculations were critical to the success of NASA's early space missions, including John Glenn's orbit around the Earth and the Apollo 11 moon landing. Despite her vital role in the space program, Johnson's contributions were largely overlooked for decades. Her story was brought into the spotlight by the book and film Hidden Figures, which revealed how Johnson and other Black women at NASA overcame segregation and discrimination to make groundbreaking achievements. Katherine Johnson's legacy highlights the contributions of women of color in STEM fields, showing how institutional bias can obscure vital contributions. 7. Wangari Maathai, 1940–2011. Wangari Maathai was a Kenyan environmental activist, the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, and the founder of the Greenbelt movement. Maathai's work focused on environmental conservation, women's rights, and sustainable development in Africa. She led efforts to plant millions of trees across Kenya to combat deforestation and empower local communities. Despite her significant contributions to environmentalism and social justice, Maathai's work was often dismissed or marginalized by political figures, both in Kenya and globally. Her legacy, however, endures as a beacon of environmental activism and women's empowerment. 8. Gertrude Bell, 1868–1926. Gertrude Bell was a British archaeologist, explorer, diplomat, and writer who played a major role in the creation of modern Iraq after World War I. Bell's knowledge of the Middle East, fluency in Arabic, and connections with tribal leaders allowed her to become one of the most influential British political officers in the region. She contributed to the establishment of borders, helped design Iraq's governance structure, and founded the Baghdad Archaeological Museum. Despite her significant influence on Middle Eastern geopolitics, Bell's story has often been eclipsed by the exploits of her male counterparts like T. Lawrence of Arabia. 9th. Trula of Salerno, circa 11th century. Trula of Salerno was a pioneering medical practitioner and author in medieval Europe. She is believed to have been part of the School of Salerno, one of the earliest medical schools in Europe, where she wrote influential texts on women's health. Her work, the Trula, became a standard reference on gynecology and obstetrics for centuries. Despite her contributions to medieval medicine, much of her work was later attributed to male physicians, and her legacy was obscured by sexism in the medical profession. Only in recent years has Trula's role in advancing medical knowledge been fully recognized. 10. Clara Zetkin, 1857–1933. Clara Zetkin was a German Marxist theorist, feminist, and socialist politician who played a central role in organizing the women's movement in Europe. Zetkin was a key figure in the founding of International Women's Day, which was first celebrated in 1911. She fought for women's suffrage, equal rights, and an end to gender-based oppression. Zetkin's role in early feminist movements has been overshadowed by male socialist leaders and political theorists, but her contributions to women's rights remain influential today. Her work laid the groundwork for later feminist and labor movements around the world. Conclusion. These women are but a few examples of the countless figures who have shaped history despite being overlooked or erased from mainstream narratives. Their contributions, though forgotten by many, have had profound impacts on the development of politics, science, culture, and human rights. By uncovering their stories, we can foster a more inclusive historical narrative, one that acknowledges the diverse voices that have shaped our world. The legacy of these women, and many others like them, demonstrates that history is not a singular narrative dominated by one gender or one group of people, but a rich tapestry woven from the contributions of many. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more historical content like this. Thank you.